Roth accounts are great, but you can screw them up. In this video, we'll talk about 20 common Roth mistakes and how you can avoid them. Number 20 is contributing to a Roth when you should contribute to a traditional. Now, as you know, Roth accounts, traditional accounts give you a tax arbitrage opportunity. If you contribute to a Roth when you're in a high income tax bracket, you lose an opportunity to take a deduction, which would actually save you money in the long run. Number 19 is owning municipal bonds in a Roth account. Because Roths already enjoy tax-free growth and withdrawals, there's no reason to put a tax-efficient investment like a municipal bond inside of a Roth account. It's like trying to take advantage of a tax deduction twice, but you really only get it once, so hold your munis somewhere else. Number 18 is owning your most conservative investments in a Roth account. Now, because a Roth account grows completely tax-free and withdrawals are tax-free like we mentioned before, that's where you want to potentially see your largest amount of growth because you're not going to be taxed on any of it. So if you have an asset allocation where you've got, a split, maybe 60-40 or 70-30 stocks to bonds, where stocks are the riskier end of that, you want to tend to hold those equities inside of a Roth account where there's the greatest potential of growth. This is especially true if the assets are going to be there for a long time. Number 17 is not diversifying your Roth investments. Now, we just talked about holding your more risky assets inside of a Roth, but that doesn't mean you need to take unnecessary risk. You still should buy stock mutual funds, ETFs, things like this that diversify your portfolio and allow that money to grow safely. Now, if you just can't bear it and you have to own an individual stock in your Roth account, be sure that the amount of that stock doesn't exceed 10% of the overall account value. Personally, I still think that's a little high, but I know some people are going to buy individual stocks no matter what. Number 16 is spending money out of your Roth account before your traditional accounts. Once again, because Roths enjoy tax-free growth and earnings, and the money that you withdraw is completely tax-free, that money's more valuable and you want to keep it in the account as long as possible. Now, there could be a tax planning strategy where it makes more sense to pull out of a traditional account, but it's going to be the exception and not the rule. Number 15 is ignoring spousal contributions. You may know that you have to have earned income to contribute to an IRA. What you may not know is that if you have a non-working spouse, they can contribute to an IRA using your earned income as a basis. Now, you have to file your taxes married filing jointly. We have another video about spousal IRAs that we'll link in the description below. Number 14, ignoring the backdoor Roth IRA. In addition to having to have earned income, you can't have too much of it in order to be able to contribute to a Roth IRA. We've got the income limitations posted on your screen now, and basically if you make over these amounts based on whether you're filing single or jointly, you can't contribute directly to a Roth IRA, but you can use the backdoor IRA. This basically involves you using an after-tax IRA contribution that you then convert to a Roth. There's a lot of details and things you need to keep in mind as you do that. We also have a video about the backdoor Roth IRA. We'll put a link to it in the description below as well. Number 13, ignoring the mega backdoor Roth IRA. The mega backdoor Roth IRA is similar to a backdoor Roth IRA. The only difference is you're going to use your employer-sponsored 401k plan to make your Roth contributions, and that's because your employer-sponsored plan will allow you to contribute up to $66,000 on an after-tax basis in 2023. That number goes up to $73,500 if you're 50 and older. By putting that money in on an after-tax basis, you can then convert that money to a Roth and potentially put $66,000 or $73,500 into a Roth account in a single tax year. If your employer-sponsored plan also allows in-service rollovers from a 401k to an IRA, you could then move your money from your 401k to your Roth IRA so you have it there. Not all 401k plans allow this, so you'll need to check with your plan custodian to be sure. Number 12 is excess contributions. We've already said that the maximum contribution you can make in 2023 to a Roth IRA is $6,500, and if you're 50 and older, that amount goes up to $7,500. Now, we also said there are income restrictions based on your modified adjusted gross income that could limit the amount you can contribute to a Roth IRA. If you contribute too much to a Roth IRA, this is called an excess contribution, and the IRS will penalize you 6% per year for every year that you leave an overage in the account. We just recorded a video about excess Roth contributions. Once again, we'll put a link in the description below. Number 11, forgetting to update your beneficiaries. Now, odds are the beneficiaries of your Roth IRA or 401k accounts don't change very often. Usually it's an event like a divorce or a death of a family member that's going to cause you to change that. So it's easy to forget to update that whenever you have a life change. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stories of heirs or even spouses not receiving an inheritance from a loved one that was intended for them because the deceased did not update their Roth IRA beneficiary list. This could be especially painful if you divorced and remarried and your ex-spouse gets your old Roth instead of your current spouse. It has happened before. A good idea is to update or at least review your beneficiaries on an annual basis. Number 10 is forgetting about the 5-year rule. Now, there are actually several 5-year rules for Roth accounts, but the one I'm referring to requires you to have the account open for at least 5 years before you can make penalty-free withdrawals of earnings, and it's required at any age. And earlier we talked about Roth conversions. Even if you're doing that, the Roth account has to be open at least 5 years before you can make those withdrawals. So if you're 61 and you make a conversion from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, and you've just opened the Roth IRA account, you'll have to wait 5 years after the opening date to begin making those withdrawals. Now, if the Roth account's been open for at least 5 years, say you opened it in your 30s, no matter what amount was in it, you would have qualified the 5-year rule. I feel like I've said this before, but we actually have a video on this topic. We'll link it in the description below. Number 9, unqualified distributions. An unqualified distribution from a Roth IRA is basically any distribution you make before age 59 and a half that isn't for a reason like tuition or hardship withdrawal or purchasing your first home. Those are the only exceptions that are made to that rule. And basically those withdrawals come with a 10% penalty on any money you take out, and you can't put that money back. So once you remove money from a Roth account, it's out for good. As a result, you're effectively forfeiting any earnings and growth that you would have made in the Roth account if you'd have left the money in there. Number 8, forgetting to convert traditional accounts to Roth accounts. Roth conversions are a great way to reduce your tax liability leading up to the age of required minimum distributions. If you have a tax-deferred account like a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, when you reach age 72, 73, or 75, the IRS is going to begin requiring you to take distributions from those accounts so the money in them can be exposed to tax. By converting money from a traditional 401k or IRA to a Roth IRA, you effectively reduce that tax liability years before RMDs hit. The best time to do this is generally between the time you retire and the time you reach RMD age, whatever that is, in your mid-70s, because you can control your income at that point in your life pretty well. So typically you see people step away from work, their income comes down because they're not working anymore, they're pulling income out of their IRAs anyway, and they can control how much they're pulling out, which dictates their tax bracket. If they take that out of a lower tax bracket, they can convert at a lower tax rate than they will at another time. Number 7 is triggering tax on a bungled rollover. If you leave an employer and decide to roll your Roth 401k into a Roth IRA, there's a couple of ways you can handle that. The first and best way is a direct rollover from your 401k custodian to your IRA custodian. This is where a check goes directly from your 401k custodian to your Roth IRA custodian and never comes to you. The second and riskier way is to have your 401k custodian send a check directly to you, which you then turn and send to your IRA custodian. If you go this route, you'll have 60 days to get the money to your IRA custodian, or it will be treated as a withdrawal. And if you're under age 59 and a half, that means it'll come with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. I've never heard of a good reason for you to handle the money in a Roth rollover, so best shot is to just go direct, let your custodian send it from one to the other, and just keep yourself out of the process. That way you don't have to worry about triggering this tax penalty. Number 6, using your Roth IRA to fund conversions. We've already talked a little bit about Roth conversions and how you can reduce your future tax liability from RMDs by converting funds from a traditional account into a Roth account. But one thing you're going to want to do is have enough cash on hand to pay the tax for that conversion without having to liquidate assets from the IRA to pay for it. If you have to cannibalize your Roth IRA to pay the tax, then you've kind of defeated the purpose of the rollover in the first place. Like we said earlier, you can't put that money back into the Roth, so you forfeited all future earnings and interest that you would have gained if the money was still in the account. Number 5, using the backdoor Roth IRA and forgetting about the pro rata rule. When you make a conversion to a Roth IRA, the IRS looks at all of your IRA assets when it calculates the tax you owe for the conversion. That means your Roth assets, your traditional assets, and your after-tax assets are all evaluated together. Then the IRS uses the proportion of IRA assets that have yet to be taxed to calculate your tax liability for the conversion. So let's say you have $20,000 in all of your IRA assets, and $15,000 of that is pre-tax. That means 75% of any conversion you make will be subject to income tax. In other words, you don't get to single out after-tax money to do a backdoor Roth IRA. Now, one way to avoid this is to roll any traditional IRA funds into a 401k if your employer-sponsored plan allows that. That way the funds are no longer in an IRA and don't count in the pro rata calculation. Number 4, removing contributions. One flexible feature of Roth accounts is that contributions can always be removed tax and penalty free at any time. That's because you've already paid income tax on those dollars. But like we've already said, the problem is you can't replace that money once you pull it out. So you're effectively forfeiting any future earnings and growth that you would have had on those contributions. Instead of raiding your Roth account, be sure to build up an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months expenses so you have some cash in an emergency. Number 3, forgetting to withdraw inherited Roth assets. Roth accounts are one of the best inheritances anyone can get. And the reason is you can leave the assets in the Roth account for another 10 years after they're inherited to grow completely tax-free. It's like a bonus Roth account. However, if the assets sit in the account beyond 10 years, you'll pay a 25% penalty for the remaining balance in the account for each year you leave it there. Now, you can ask for that to be reduced to 10%, but either way, it's still going to be painful. Number 2, buying expensive investments. Now, this is the death by 1,000 cuts mistake that a lot of people ignore or really don't pay any attention to in a Roth account. If you own mutual funds or ETFs within your Roth account, there's an expense ratio that's associated with those funds, and they can range anywhere from 0 to 5% annually. In a previous post we did on our website, which we'll link below, we showed how a 0.9% difference in expense ratios could cost $120,000 to an investor over 35 years. Expense ratios are like dead weight on a race car. The more you carry, the more it slows you down. Now, you'll be doing yourself a big favor if you can buy low-cost index funds instead of actively managed funds. There's a lot less of an administrative and tax burden. And number 1, not contributing early and often. This may sound a bit cliche, but it's the truth. If you've ever watched any of our videos about the power of compounding interest, you know that time is one of the most important factors in building wealth. You simply cannot build a large Roth IRA or Roth 401k if you don't give the assets time to grow. I especially want to challenge people that are in their 20s to begin using Roth accounts as soon as possible. My wife and I began contributing when we were in our mid-20s, and we have no regrets. Eventually, the compounding interest builds up enough steam that it gets pretty exciting to watch the account grow. So don't cheat yourself. Start contributing now. And there you have it, 20 mistakes to avoid with Roth accounts. If you found this video helpful, please click like and subscribe. We also have plenty of information on our website, martinmoney.com. We've got other videos and playlists listed in the description below. Thank you so much for your time. God bless. Take care.